Fit to Love, Episode 11, The Connection Between Emotion and Disease.
Fit to Love is physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness to achieve the happy life you deserve. From exercise to cooking, relationships, and spirituality, you'll find all the inspiration you need right here with our host, JJ Flizanes.
Hello and welcome to Freedom Fridays on the Fit to Love podcast show. I'm JJ Flizanes, your host, and today I have a very, very special guest, someone that I work with and someone that I know you're going to be inspired and learn a lot from. Dr. Lynne is a multidimensional intuitive teacher and healer. Born with a gift of sight, Lynne can see in exquisite detail what is stopping you from having happiness and success in any area of your life. She offers you straightforward guidance for the heart and soul, letting you know how to transform any area of your life permanently. Lynne blends her extensive credentials and expertise in metaphysics, body-mind therapies, diet, nutrition, and with her highly developed intuitive intelligence, she quickly identifies the real source of the problem using many modalities to bring clarity and permanent resolution to the client. For 25 years, Lynne has guided the lives of successful corporate executives, celebrities, those in the media, businesses, couples, and individuals. Couples say their work with Lynne has brought them closer than they ever believed possible. Lynne's packed nationwide workshops and lectures at Omega Institute for Holistic Studies, Unity Churches, the Learning Annex, the Wellness Community, Centers for Spiritual Living, the Whole Life Expo, spiritual centers, retreats, and corporations have again and again left audiences captivated, anchored, and empowered in their truths. And I can speak from personal experience. I've worked with psychics and intuitives in the past and therapists. And Lynne has a very special gift. From the first session that I met with her, I knew instantly that she could see things that other people couldn't see. So welcome, Lynne, to the show.
Thank you, JJ. Thank you.
I would love to start out by having you explain to the listeners exactly what you do and how do you do the work that you do.
Great question. I was born with the gift of clairvoyance, and I could see things that were going on with people. And, you know, as a kid, it's kind of hard because you really can't talk about it. Nobody really wants to hear the bad news. And it took me until I was around 35 to be able to integrate it to help people get well. And it's seeing, I see energy fields around people. I see the fields in people so that I can see what their past experiences are and how it's affected their lives today. I want to explain this. It's kind of like a 90-10 rule. So in the present, we might be affected by something. Somebody might make us angry or sad, or we're just kind of full emotionally, and so we're not really present. Well, in the present, somebody else could have done something, but that's really 10% of what's happening. So if we have these piles inside of us from the past, let's say we have an abandonment pile. We have a am I good enough pile. We have a am I lovable pile. So we have all these piles that we're unaware of, that are just sitting in the body that happened years ago. These emotions happened years ago, but they haven't had an outlet until now. And so what I do is I see all of that, and I work with people to help them understand that the person in the present is only triggering that 90%. Mm-hmm. They're just the messenger letting us know that there's unfinished business in there and that it is affecting our lives. For example, I was working with a woman a few years ago, and she came in because she had just horrendous back pain, and she was in her 40s. She could barely stand, and it had been this way for 5 years. And she had been to doctors. She had been what she felt was everywhere, and nobody had a resolution for her. So when we sat in the session, and I said to her, "Why are you here?" And she said, "I'm depressed." But really, what I could see was the back pain. And so I start getting images of a funeral, and I see that her mother has passed, and then I see the number 5. So I usually see a time frame when this happens, so it helps me when I'm working with someone to go in and kind of clear that issue. And I asked her, and I said, did your mom die 5 years ago? And she said, yes. She was shocked. And I said, that grief is in your back. So would you be willing to release that? And we worked after 25 minutes. She was into the deepest grief of her life, and she released it. At the end of 40 minutes, she stood up and she could walk with no pain. And so, which brings us to the connections between our emotions and symptoms and some diseases.
So I am so glad that you used that example. You obviously were psychically reading my mind yesterday when I was wanting to address back pain, because I've got clients with back pain, I've got family members with back pain, and through my journey as a personal trainer, it's taken me from sort of the science of the physical body, the structure of the bones, the joints, the everything that has to do with the science, just of the structure and inside. And of course, when I addressed all that stuff, and some people were getting better and some people weren't getting better, it led me to ask deeper questions. So what's next? And I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper until I stumbled upon the work that led me to mind-body connection and all that mind-body connection stuff, and realizing that a lot of our physical ailments come from emotional issues. And I believe that a lot of our diseases also come from emotional issues, that was really the root of most of these physical ailments that we're having. So I'm so glad you used back pain, because it's such a huge thing. Everyone keeps thinking, oh, it's physical, it's physical. And sometimes I'm sure it is physical. But if it's chronic and it never gets better, it's not physical. So please tell us, explain to everyone who's listening that connection. Obviously, we heard it with the back pain example, but what's the connection between our thoughts and feelings, and then how that manifests in our body as disease or illness or pain?
Disease and illness can start as thoughts. And so if you're thinking, oh, I'm never going to get this job, I'm never going to get that job, if you're thinking negatively, which is the ego, and we'll go into that piece more with the next show that JJ will be doing together. She and I will be doing together on intuition development. But for now, if you think from a critical place, we'll call it the critical voice, the negative voice, your body's going to be stressed, your organs are going to take a hit, and I mean, I just see it all day long. People come in with high blood pressure. And why is it that any of us could be sitting in traffic? We are in LA, so kind of synonymous with traffic. And one person just is furious and just wants to bang on the steering wheel. And the other person picks up the phone and calls the person they're meeting and says, hey, I'm going to be 20 minutes late. The difference between how we behave is based on what's inside of us. Again, these emotions. So let's say the person in the car is really angry. That blood pressure could rise. But what I find in session with high blood pressure is that it goes back to an emotional feeling that maybe they were trapped as a kid. Maybe they didn't like their family environment. Maybe it was hostile. Maybe it wasn't safe. And so all it does, sitting in traffic, recreates the feeling of being trapped. But because they're unaware of it, they think it's about traffic. So coming back to that 90-10, 10% for us is what's happening on the outside that's triggering the 90%.
In terms of it being buried in there, so that 90% is really sort of our foundation, and would you say it's our subconscious mind as well as our emotional body?
Yeah, I would say it's the emotional body, it's the pain body. And sometimes we're aware of it, but most people are not aware of the impact that old memories, and sometimes it's things we don't even remember, have an effect on us until we actually go into the body, because feelings buried alive do not die. They stay in there until we work with them and kind of free them. And that's why this is such an emotionally freeing process.
I had that experience actually in our last session with the EMDR. And for those listening that don't know, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitizing reestablishment. Lynne, can you talk just a little bit about the process of EMDR?
Yeah, I can talk about it from an energetic perspective.
Okay.
And it's basically you are thinking a thought or holding a feeling, and there's many ways that it can be done with instruments, or a therapist could use their hand, and it's moving bilateral for the brain. And what happens is it takes the emotion down, it takes the charge down until you don't feel it anymore. And so this is a wonderful way. It is such an effective way to work with traumas. And sometimes people say, oh, I don't have any traumas. We all do. We all do. That just means you're not aware of them as traumas. But your body recognizes them as traumas. If you think of a walnut and the wound being in the center, and we build these protective coatings around us, like the shell of the walnut, and people can't get close to us because we're afraid of being hurt. We're protecting the wound.
That's a great image, and from experience, I sought out EMDR. I've worked with, I think you're the third person that I've worked with for EMDR, because I noticed that consciously, my conscious mind, I'm very curious. I've always asked why. I always try to find out, why am I responding to this the way I am? Why do I feel this way? What am I interpreting? And I do the work that I can, but when I got sort of hit the wall, so to speak, of, okay, conscious mind is not helping this. And I learned about EMDR. I thought, what a great tool. I need the next level. And I don't have, I think people judge their traumas by how severe they are in comparison to other people. So while I've never had physical abuse happen or sexual abuse, I know other people who have had I've had a pretty healthy childhood, but along the way, of course, what came up in our last session, had to do with sort of my first sexual experience. And while it wasn't, and anything that happened that was in relationship to my own feelings about my body, feelings about sex, feelings about my femininity, and I know enough to not take that lightly, to have, and I think some people sort of brush it off and just think, well, nothing really bad has happened to me, so I must not have any traumas. But just like you talked about, and like I have experienced, it's all relative, right? I mean, everyone's trauma is relative to their life experience and to the emotional detriment or the emotional, what would you say, the emotional leftovers in your body?
Yes. And I would say, if you don't have what you want, if you're not happy in any area of your life, there's something blocking it. And so while JJ and I are talking about traumas, it may not be a trauma for you. It may be a well-established pattern. And we don't even think about it. But again, come back to the walnut. We have established these protective layers so that people can't get to us. What I see a lot with couples is that because they've been hurt in the past, they bring the hurts, they bring the wounds, they bring the fears of abandonment and people cheating and all of that into a relationship. So if you have 20% available of you to bring to your new partner, how deep, how satisfying is that going to be? Or are you going to spend your time in the fear and in the anxiety? And so one of the things I want to talk about today is anxiety and what anxiety really is from the way I work with it. So here we have these feelings in the body, and anxiety is not really a feeling. It's a body sensation. And it lets us know that there are unresolved feelings. It's a vibration that says there's something that wants to come out. And when you are working with the true feelings, when you go into the grief, when you go into the sadness, the pain, the anger, what's ever underneath that anxiety, the anxiety goes away. It's released. Once the true emotion is released, the anxiety goes away. So the anxiety is a message. If you're worrying about something, if you're fretting about something, if you feel anxious about something, there's something underneath that needs to be released. So anxiety is a great teacher for us, that there's something there. There's an energy, there's a feeling, a true feeling that wants to move through you. And feelings are just energy. They're just buried alive, and they still have their own vibration, and they're still causing disharmony in our systems.
So let's say someone has anxiety but doesn't take it as the contrast that is calling them to address it or to release it or to find some tools or some help in order to process and then release that. And someone, whether they use drugs or television or sleeping or shopping or alcohol or food to sort of numb the anxiety and to ignore it. Let's just take a scenario and say someone has anxiety for 10 or 20 years. What physical symptoms have you experienced or seen, or what could one think might happen next with how that could cause, again, illness or disease past just the feeling?
There's several but mostly it's a feeling of feeling unsafe. And so the unsafe can go into shoulder pain or back pain or headaches. I see a lot of headaches with that, and respiratory things, because we're not breathing well when we have anxiety. It's an overall feeling that drains the body. A lot of fatigue and anxiety, because we're using the energy to keep the anxiety alive. We have to keep feeding it. And so a lot of times people are tired, and they're, I don't know why I'm tired, I need more vitamins. Really, they just need to release what's ever underneath the anxiety to not feel drained.
I have been recommending for years, after learning, like I said, I used all the tools that I could find to address each issue with each client over the years, and some things would work and some things wouldn't, which led me to find more things to study and more things to try so that I could be of better service to really help people overcome and problem solve anything that was standing in their way of getting the results that they wanted. And at the end of the day, even what I do, people are coming to me, or used to come to me, for just diet and nutrition and weight loss. But the reality of it is, underneath all that was they just wanted to be happy, and they wanted to love themselves, and they wanted to feel good. And so really the real goal wasn't just I want to lose 10 pounds. It was I want to love myself. Mm-hmm. And so once I could kind of uncover all of that, acquiring new tools and learning about new people like you to refer to help them move those blocks out of the way to get to that goal is really, really important. So someone who's listening, let's just say someone who's listening to this and they're afraid. For some people like me, I would hear this and call you. In fact, that's what I did, right? I manifested you within 24 hours. I was talking about an intuitive, and then Jeannie gave me your card the very next day without me even asking, and I called you that night. But that's me. So let's talk about the people out there who are listening to this, and they're interested, and they've got pain, and they're very curious, but they're scared. What would you say to those people who are just have a little resistance because they're afraid of you uncovering something really bad, or having this take a long time, or having to relive painful things?
Mm-hmm. Well, the pain is in there, and it's running your life. You don't even know it. You're making decisions based on fear. For instance, people take a safe job rather than go out into the world and do what they want. They choose safe relationships, which maybe you don't get to be in your power. Maybe you don't feel empowered in the relationship. Maybe it's just playing it safe. So I ask you, are you okay to live the way you're living, or would you rather take a chance and dip your toe in the pool and see what the pool feels like? I don't go beyond what somebody asks. So when somebody comes in, I ask them, what do you want to focus on? And I stay with that topic for them and give them clarity. People are just stunned with the clarity they get. And when you give somebody their truth back to them, we all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. And to have somebody see you and know you without you having to explain it, because you really don't know yourself, you want to know yourself more. Having somebody say that to you, here's what I see, usually people's bodies relax. Some people cry from the sense of relief because they don't have the words for what they're feeling. But I do have the words for them. And so that connection happens within themselves and their own truth. And then they want it. They want more. They want to be free of the baggage. They just want to fly in their lives to have and be who they really are.
Absolutely. And I get excited, and I've had to learn to trust and allow others their process, which most of the time is slower than mine. But when someone comes up against one of those obstacles or an issue, and they have that resistance, which I know and I have learned through working with people and learning the difference between, I look at the problem and say, well, I know on the other side of this, once I clear it, the freedom that I'm going to feel, and I want that for you too. And, but giving others their space to find their own time and be ready for that is really important. So we've got one more question for you before we wrap up the show, but before we do that, I'd like to thank our sponsors.
Do you want to look and feel years younger? Learn more about your hormone health and how to get properly tested. Sign up for the Healthy Hormone Kit at nourishingwellness.com. It features the essential tests you need to tell your doctor to order for you to learn more about your current levels. Plus, you'll receive lots of healthy eating and lifestyle tips to improve your hormone health naturally. Again, that's www.nourishingwellness.com. If you are like most people who struggle with overeating, you may feel powerless over your habits and urges to eat. Powerless over what and how much you eat. Break the vicious cycle of emotional eating and take back your power over food with Dr. Lisa Gelper. Dr. Lisa Gelper has helped thousands discover their own power over food and help them to win freedom from the obsession and defeat that haunt yo-yo dieters, emotional eaters, and those who just hope to lose some weight. Visit her site at poweroverfood.com to read her articles, watch her videos, sign up for her monthly email tips, and check out her current classes. Again, that's poweroverfood.com.
Okay, so now we've talked about the amazing gifts, Lynne, that you have and how you can help others and how we can help ourselves by removing some of these blocks and healing some of this pain that's been stopping us and running our lives. So how do we start? How can we become aware of what is within us that may be causing harm on our physical, emotional, or even spiritual level?
Listen to your body. Whenever you feel a charge in your body, which means a movement in your body, an emotion in your body, a clenching in your body, your body is your best barometer to what's going on. And just watch are you acting from a place of what you want and what you're here to do? Or are you reacting, which is the 90%, to what somebody is doing or saying? 90% of most folks live in reaction to life rather than grabbing it by the horns and taking it where you want it to go and allowing it to go. And one of the things I want to say quickly too is that the difference between my work and talking to somebody is that you bring what you know, which is 10 to 15% of what's happened to you, your thoughts, your feelings. So you're working with the conscious mind. How much can you evolve when you don't know what's in there? Basically, the difference in talking about things is you might get an understanding of behavior. The work I do goes into your body where the feelings are and releases them so that you are free.
So we said to listen to our bodies. And is that just anything from feeling? So, for instance, today, before we recorded today, I was really excited, and I couldn't tell. I thought it was excitement or anxiety from being nervous. And I was just listening, and I decided to meditate. And as I was sort of listening to myself, my body did calm down after about 10 minutes. But as I was sort of listening to it, I thought, I think this is excitement. But it feels sort of like anxiety, or maybe it's a combination. Now, it went away, so I would, at this point, think that I have accomplished sort of processing on some surface level, sort of what that was about. Is it those kinds of feelings? Or obviously it's going to be deeper issues, like you said, listening to your body. If I have pain, or if I've got a disease, or if I'm dealing with a chronic illness, or something like we dealt with my knee the other day. I just wanted to know if it was spiritual, emotional, or physical. So talk a little bit about, again, those sort of signs when you said listen to your body in particular.
Yeah. So as you experience, as JJ's saying, a physical pain or something inside of you, I'll call it an emotional tweak, stop, take a few breaths, be aware of it, and take a few breaths. And just as JJ did, sit with yourself, do some breathing, and ask yourself, what is this about? Empty your mind as best as you can, because you want to move away from the critical voice that has begun the process of creating the physical pain or the body sensation that you're having, like anxiety. You can't have anxiety unless there's something in there that it's connecting to. There's a fear there that something that's happening currently is connecting to. So ask your body. You can also stop, and when you get to a calm place, ask your body, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? And sit and wait for the answer. And if you don't get the answer, it usually means that your head is still going. You're still thinking. You're not fully engaged with your solar plexus, your breathing. Think only of your breathing. There's nothing to do right now except listen to the sound of my breathing and just let everything else go.
Excellent. Good. Well, that's a place to start. And I know that on our next show with Lynne, we're going to be talking about how to strengthen and listen to your intuition, which, again, will help you do some of this work on your own and to help clear some of those things. Of course, not all of it, because you can't see what Lynne can see or what other intuitives can. But I know for myself and for others, strengthening your intuition helps you make better choices in life. So I invite you to subscribe to the show on iTunes, to Fit to Love podcast, so that you can get immediate downloads when all the shows are published, and you can get access to Lynne as soon as her next show is up every week. So before we close the show, Lynne, tell us, who do you work with? And I mean, people who don't live here in Los Angeles, I mean, can they work with you?
Yeah, I work on the phone. I work in person at my office in the South Bay in Los Angeles. But working on the phone is just as good, because I can read energy anywhere. Yeah, so calling is fine. I also have classes at my office for intuition development and other things going on. So you can reach me through my website, which is lyneboutross.com. There's contact information there. I also have a CD, How to Listen to and Follow Your Intuition. And JJ and I will talk a little bit more about that in the next show. And if you're interested, feel free to contact me.
Lynne, why don't you give us your telephone number?
It's 424-234-8767.
Excellent. I could talk about this stuff all day long. I love it. And I really appreciate you being here to help educate and inspire and help remove blocks from both myself and from the audience and anyone listening and anyone that I refer. So also, if you're going to get in touch with Lynne, please let her know that you heard about her on this show, so she understands how much you understand about what she can do for you and the services that she provides. So I thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please share it. And Lynne, thank you so much. I look forward to interviewing you again.
Thank you, JJ.
Want up-to-date recipes, product reviews, exercises, and mental stimulation? Find step-by-step articles from top-notch experts on invisiblefitness.com/blog.
Looking for an engaging and inspiring speaker? Does your group need a good jolt of positive thinking? Look no further than JJ Flizanes. Visit her site to check out her most requested topics and video examples. jjflizanes.com. That's jjflizanes.com.
The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly videocasts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If this show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fittolove.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.TV. Have a fit and fabulous day.